and then I flew to Atlanta, and I was on set, on the Wednesday. Met up with not Andrew Garfield. I went to drama school with Andrew Garfield actually, with Andrew Lincoln on set. Just when they were doing like the storming of Alexandria that happens in season 6. So everyone was covered in blood, and everyone's running around with their guns and screaming. And Andy and I sat on a porch of a house in Alexandria, and he's from where I'm from in England, Bath, and so we both talk like this. But he was using his American accent, and I didn't want to screw him up, and he's like the lead of the show, so I was like, I used my American accent, and we're talking about like where we come from in Bath. It was the most bizarre conversation I've ever had with anyone, and we've worked together before. Like, we were actually part of the same drama group. He's a few years older than me, but we were part of the same after-school drama group in Bath. And we had done Wuthering Heights together with Tom Hardy in 2009, I think it was, where he played my uncle in that. Very, very different to them being in Atlanta and him being from us both in the show being from completely different places. So that was really, really fun. And then I'm on the show, and it was wild. In the first season, I'm all fake hair and fake beard, and by the time I got killed, I had hair down to my elbows and all real facial hair, and then they killed me. But I had a lot of fun.
Broke our hearts.
Yeah, but it was really, I was really happy with the part. First of all, they gave me this really, really cool first episode with just me, Rick, and Daryl, which was amazing. Like, what an introduction. You get to be with the two main guys on the show for a whole episode, and it was also after the craziness that happened in Alexandria, and that episode was this nice pressure release, and it added a nice bit of humor, and everyone tells me like, we didn't know if you were a good guy or a bad guy, and it was just a really fun, memorable episode to join on. And then throughout my time I had some fun stuff to do, and I was very grateful that I had a very definite look, and had like the ninja skills and stuff, and like stuff to mark me out, because there's so many people that come and go on that show. Anything that you get that marks you out is cool. And even for my death, I was like really happy that it was memorable. It was like so sudden and quick, and it introduced the Whisperers, and it was memorable. It's hard to stand out on that show sometimes, and I feel like I was given a character and a beginning and an end, which really solidified me in the minds of everyone. So that's all you need, really, and that's all you want on a show like that. So I was very happy with, the entirety of how it rounded out. By the time I left, I was kind of over the show, because I was like, well, if we're not going to do anything else with the character, then I'm good with dying. And I actually think it would be cool, because it would be a big shock. And so they're like, okay, cool, we'll kill you then. I was like, oh great, that's fine. And it was fun. And that whole end sequence I really enjoyed. That whole last episode. Normally, like anyone who leaves the show is kind of sad and upset and stuff, and I was a little bit because I was leaving everyone, but I was so excited to come to work every single day of that last episode, because it was so cool. It was me and Norman and Ross and Josh just like running around being followed by these walkers the whole episode, and it was really spooky and creepy, and then I had the big fight sequence, and so that was the best episode I had on the show apart from my first one. I'm really happy. It was the most I got to do, so it was cool. Sorry, I rambled quite a lot. That was my Walking Dead time.
How did you handle that stocking cap in the middle of it?
God.
That's nuts.
It was the stocking, so the beanie, and so my first episode was the beanie and the facial hair and loads of extensions and a leather coat and running around a field in the middle of summer in Atlanta. It was like, wow, welcome to whenever anyone joins the show, they hear welcome to The Walking Dead a lot. There's a lot of like, everyone is dealing with the humidity and also like the rough and tumble of the whole thing. Like on that episode where I take them to the hilltop and there's like a fight and Rick gets into a fight and everything, I'm standing there going, where are the stunt doubles? Like, there's no one. Like, everyone's kind of in there like fighting each other. And purely from like an insurance point of view, I was like, wait, you're allowing the lead of this show to like really get in there and fight around? And like, yeah, this is how we do it on this show. I was like, wow, okay. Cool. Where's my stunt double? But no, that was all a lot of fun. But it's incredibly hot, and you get very used to conserving your energy, basically. So when it's not action and cut, I just go somewhere very quiet and shady and just sit down and don't move until you have to move, because you're constantly being given water. Like, people are always bringing you bottles of water, because you know, I mean, walkers faint all the time, like all the time. They're dressed in all of the plastic and the hoods and everything, and they have to stay hydrated. Otherwise, and it's hard when you're out there being walkers. You want to do the best job you can. So sometimes you can be shy and you don't want to ask for water or something, but then you just faint. You just drop, and like I've often heard like walk it down, because you know it happens, and because it gets so damn hot out there. Yeah.
Cool. Before we take questions from you guys, so think of your questions right now. I just kind of want to ask a little bit about Prodigal Son. Maybe you can talk about that for us, and then maybe a future project that's coming out. Just before we get the chance to, just so you can get it all in before everyone.
Of course, yeah. Prodigal Son was a bit of a dream job. When I left Walking Dead, I was a bit frustrated that I hadn't had much to do on Walking Dead. I was like, well, I don't really feel like it's really pushed me. And then Prodigal Son came along and it was like, do all of the acting, all of the time, every day. I was like, wow. It was, I mean, overjoyed. I got to work with Michael Sheen, who's just amazing. Like, he's a really good actor, and we had these great one-on-one scenes, and that was just everything that I could have wished for. And then I was the lead of the show, and I was in every single day from beginning to end, and that's a lot of effort and quite stressful, but at the same time, it's really cool because you get to set the tone. So you walk in, and if you're like happy-go-lucky and hey everyone, and then it makes everyone's day better, and I really enjoyed having that position on the show. We were also filming in New York, which was also a very cool place to film. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, we got shut down the first season with COVID, and the second season we came back, and the COVID kind of screwed with the show, but it made everything very much more expensive during that time because of all the protocols and all of the testing and everything. And I think inevitably that was one of the reasons why we didn't come back, because we just couldn't make the balance sheets work. At the end of the day, the show became too expensive, and in order to make our money back, we'd have to shoot more. But that was a bit of a dream. I wasn't expecting to do anything so quickly after Walking Dead, and yeah, that was a nice opportunity. And then that afforded me the opportunity after that ended to take some time off, and my wife and I had a baby. And that was really amazing because I was able to be at home with her during the pregnancy, and for the first year of my son's life, we didn't really do anything else. So that was really nice. And now I'm looking at my bank balance and going, okay, got to do some more conventions and go out and get some more acting work. But recently I started to get back in, like, slowly with some nice parts and some films. So I just finished a couple of westerns with Kevin Costner. Just really, really cool. I mean, we went and shot in Utah, and I was really emotional on that film because we're out shooting, and I'm in like the wagon train in this movie, and it's just wild. Like, you're sat out there in the plains of Utah, and it's like we could have been shooting the movie like 60 years ago. Like, the only difference is the size of the cameras. So it was just like really, it was really an amazing thing to be a part of, and it was really like the child in me was like, if you wanted, like, it was what I thought making a movie was when I was a kid. Like, that's the kind of movie I want to make. Like, and I had in the back of my head, like, people ask you what it is you want to do, and I'm like, I don't really know. I don't have anything that I want to do. And then I realized, like, well, you know what I'd love, and I don't know how you make this happen, is that I'd love to be part of like a classic film, you know, and like however you make that happen, like you try and work with the best people you can and hope that a great film comes out of it. But when we were making that, I was like, oh wow, this is an epic Western film, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And yeah, it should be coming out soon. I also did a horror film recently, but I can't talk about it. But that's also really, really cool. And
what is
really
the name of the film?
I can't talk about it.
No, not the horror
one.
Oh,
the Western is called Horizon.
Horizon. Okay.
I think it's called Horizon, an American Saga. And it's like he wrote and directed it, and he's been open about the fact that he got into movies from watching The West Was One when he was a kid. And this is basically, you know, along the lines of his West Was One. Like, it's yeah, it's a really cool, epic American saga. I'm very excited to be a part of it, yeah. And anyone else want to hire me? because I'm free now. That's it. That leads us up to the present day. Do we have any questions of any sort? Yes, hello.
I was just wondering, what is your theory of if Prodigal Son did not end, what would be the next step? So what do you think would happen?
I think it was left in a really interesting spot. Like, his father could have died, and he really, like, I think we could have done the third season with his father actually being dead, but still being in the show and turning up in his brain the whole time and being there. And because the problem with the show was, in the end, that he's trapped in the jail cell, right? So I always went to go see him in the jail cell, which was great, and it made for these great like potboiler scenes. But it helped us also to break him out. But at the same time, you can't have him really like roaming around, because then he becomes the serial killer again, and then it becomes a completely different show. Whereas if he had actually died at the end of season 2, he would still be like on my mind and in my head the whole time, but would also be out in the world. So that's actually really fun, because then they're kind of like a duo out in the world wherever they go. And I think that it could be like a really good like double act. I mean, it makes Malcolm even more crazy than he was the whole time.
Then would Malcolm become his
Well,
father?
exactly. I mean, that was the whole thing, you know. I think his father would always be in his head going, kill him, kill him. But then it's a bit like Dexter, I think. And you don't want to be too close to Dexter. And we didn't really talk about that too much while we were making it, but I was aware of that. Like, but then in Dexter, it was his dad who was stopping him from doing it.
Right.
Yeah. But that was obviously the thing about that show was the dynamic between me and my dad, and that was the strongest part of it, I think. And so if we were going to develop the show, I mean, there was always the problem with like when you're on network television, the case of the week thing is a thing that the network wants, because it makes the show easier to sell, because you can pick it up and leave it. So like all of the CSIs and everything, you don't really need to have seen any more of it to be able to watch another episode. So the networks always really want that in there. And I thought we did that well, but the strongest heartbeat of the show was always that relationship between the father and son. So I think if we carried on, I'd like it to be more of that. But when you're on a network, when you're on Fox or when you're on ABC or something, like they always want that kind of case of the week thing. Yeah, but I would love to have carried on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that show, but can you give a brief synopsis for people who haven't seen it?
So Prodigal Son, I play a profiler whose father is a famous serial killer. Yeah, so basically, and then I join the cops to help solve crimes, and using my father, it's kind of like a Hannibal Lecter kind of thing, using my father to help me with that, but all the while wondering, am I going to turn into a killer myself? Do I carry the gene, basically? It was cool. It was stressful being in that guy's head for all day, every day, but it afforded us to do loads of really cool stuff. Like there are kind of like sequences which are kind of supernatural, and then there are sequences which are really action, and there was comedy. I think it was also a problem because the tone of the show was quite hard to ascertain. So people were like, wait, am I supposed to be scared, or am I supposed to be laughing or crying? But then that was also what I really enjoyed about the show, is that I like taking a swing, and that show definitely took a swing. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, who's got some questions? What was it like fighting Norman Reedus? Oh, there was a question back there?
Well, I was just curious, that iconic scene where Daryl and Rick are chasing you.
Yeah.
How many takes to that?
Well,